Okay, let's just dive right into this masterclass explainer on how businesses actually match their output to wildly fluctuating levels of demand. I mean, if you've ever wondered how companies manage to not run out of stock during a massive rush, or on the flip side, how they avoid sitting on a mountain of unsold products when trends suddenly shift, well, you are in the right place. Today, we're unpacking the technical methods businesses use to align their supply with the completely unpredictable real world. Here's our agenda for the session. We're going to map out the supply-demand balancing act, look at the strategic levers managers pull, and discuss the flexible workforce. Then we'll tackle the Far More Cycles challenge, look into tech and external solutions, and finally wrap up with the Cheyenne strategy. Section 1. The Supply-Demand Balancing Act, Navigating the Fluctuations. So looking at these macroeconomic waves, what's really fascinating is how cyclical demand creates these totally unpredictable peaks and valleys that a business has to navigate. See, unlike seasonal demand, which is pretty predictable, right? Like a surge in winter coats in November makes sense. Cyclical demand follows the broader macroeconomic cycle. When the economy is booming, people buy way more. When it shrinks into a recession, demand falls off a cliff. A business basically has to be ready to scale its output up or down in response to these macro waves, which, let's be honest, are notoriously difficult to time perfectly. And this leads us to a crucial point: the absolutely severe financial consequences of getting this mismatch wrong. If a business underestimates demand, bam, they face stockouts. You've probably been that frustrated customer before. And what do? You go straight into the arms of a competitor. On the flip side, if they overestimate demand, that leads to excess capacity and bloated inventory. You're literally paying for unused factory space, idle workers, and massive storage costs. It's a surefire way to crush your profit margins by driving up your average unit costs. So let's treat this as our first operational puzzle, a real AO3 analysis task for you. Think about the financial mechanics here. If a business adopts a just-in-case approach, holding mountains of inventory to prepare for an economic upswing, what exactly happens to their cash? Well, it gets completely tied up in stock, just sitting in a warehouse, right? And that severely impacts their liquidity. Plus, storing, securing, and insuring all that inventory costs real money, which directly increases the unit cost of every single item they sell. It is a massive operational risk. Moving on to Section 2. Pulling the strategic levers, internal operations. Okay, let's step into the control room. These three strategic levers, changing production scheduling, tweaking inventory levels, and adjusting capacity, are basically your immediate tools for aligning output with market fluctuations. A manager might change production scheduling by, say, adding overtime shifts during a busy period, or they might adjust inventory levels by holding back stock, or even alter physical capacity by opening or closing an entire production line. True mastery in operations, it's knowing exactly which of these levers to pull and exactly when to pull them. This trade-off is kind of like an operational seesaw. On one side, you have just-in-time, or JIT. This keeps you incredibly agile by slashing storage costs because you receive goods exactly when they are needed on the production line. But it leaves you super vulnerable to any supply chain shocks. On the other side, just-in-case, JIC, is the safer, more traditional route. You maintain higher inventory to weather sudden demand spikes. But as we just discussed, it can completely drain your liquidity. Next up, Section 3, the flexible workforce, scaling human resources. You know, a factory can't run itself, and labor is often a firm's highest cost. By utilizing these different forms of employment, part-time, temporary, 0 hours, and freelancers, a business can effectively scale its workforce up or down as demand dictates. If demand is highly uncertain, locking into full-time salaried contracts creates a really rigid fixed cost. Instead, managers can use part-time or temporary staff to cover seasonal spikes. And for maximum flexibility, they might tap into freelancers or 0 hours contracts, where workers are only paid for the exact hours the business actually needs them on the floor. But here's the catch. Businesses have to carefully weigh the cost-saving agility of 0 hours contracts against the potential negative impacts on staff morale. While 0 hours contracts are, frankly, fantastic for the business's bottom line during a sudden drop in demand, they offer zero income security for the worker. This can lead to high staff turnover, low motivation, and ultimately poor customer service or product quality. Finding the right balance here is a massive challenge. Actually, it's a big reason why the service you get at your favorite store might vary so wildly from week to week. All right, Section 4, the Far More Cycles Challenge, Seasonal Spikes. Let's ground all this theory in reality. Far More Cycles is an independent bicycle retailer established in Oxford as a worker cooperative. Like most in the industry, they experience peak summer demand. But here is the really fascinating twist. Their core mission values include democracy, social responsibility, and crucially, caring for others. That means they can't just treat their staff as disposable resources to be hired and fired at will just to meet a summer sales spike. So, time for your second task. How would you solve this AO2 operational dilemma? Using exploitative zero-hours contracts would likely violate their cooperative ethos entirely. Instead, you might propose offering voluntary paid overtime to existing cooperative members first. Or, if they do hire temporary summer staff, they could offer guaranteed minimum hours and living wages. That way, they align their very real operational need for flexibility with their deeply held social responsibility goals. Moving to Section 5, Tech and External Solutions. Reaching beyond. When internal levers like scheduling and local staffing just aren't enough to manage output, agile businesses have to look outward to external partners and technology. Outsourcing to third parties or making heavy investments in new tech can fundamentally transform a business's ability to scale. Instead of carrying the burden of excess capacity yourself, you literally pay another firm to manufacture your overflow. Alternatively, investing heavily in automation, robotics, or advanced computer modeling can dramatically increase your efficiency, letting you produce way more with the exact same physical footprint. Finally, Section 6, the Sheen Strategy, Hyper-Agile Tech. Let's look at how technology and external supply chains scale globally by examining the fascinating and often controversial fashion retailer Shein. Their extremely lean production model tests the market by initially producing just 100 to 200 pieces of a new item. I mean, think about that. For a massive global retailer, that is an absolute micro-batch. They launch these items on their website, and only if customer demand instantly justifies it do they signal their external suppliers to ramp up production. It is the ultimate just-in-time, agile response to wildly unpredictable fashion trends. By heavily investing in predictive computer models, they match production to demand incredibly closely, completely avoiding massive stockpiles. And because they ship directly to customers globally from massive warehouses in China, they bypass traditional retail store inventory entirely. This technology-driven lean production allows them to consistently limit excess inventory to a level far, far lower than their traditional high street competitors. That protects their profit margins and is exactly what enables those famous low prices. Now, they explicitly state that this precise on-demand supply chain model is part of a broader strategy to tackle waste and improve circularity. Now, it's absolutely vital to note the context here. The fast fashion industry as a whole is widely criticized, reportedly producing about 8% of global carbon emissions and actively encouraging a throwaway culture. Shein faces heavy scrutiny over this, as well as their factory conditions. However, strictly looking at their operational argument, they claim that by mathematically matching output to demand so accurately, they structurally eliminate the massive waste of unsold clothing that typically plagues traditional fashion brands. Let's look at how this actually builds into real supply chain decisions. If Shein wants to launch a new range totaling 2.4 million units, they might evaluate these two suppliers. Express offers a blistering 9-day lead time, perfect for fast fashion, and lower CO2 emissions, which aligns with their sustainability pledges. However, Reliant has a massive maximum output of 50 million units. If Shein uses Express, they'll be pushing that supplier to 96% of its maximum capacity. That leaves almost no room to scale up if the new clothing line goes viral. It perfectly highlights the constant, daily tension between agility, environmental targets, and raw capacity. So, for our final AO4 evaluation task, let's weigh the ultimate operational dilemma. Is outsourcing production genuinely more sustainable than using local, zero-hours contracts? Outsourcing shifts the burden and can obscure ethical oversight, while zero-hours contracts offer immediate agility right at home, but at the steep cost of local workforce stability. As AI and global supply chains continue to evolve at lightning speed, which lever represents the true future of an ethical, agile business? I'll leave you to ponder that verdict. Thanks for joining this explainer, and keep questioning the systems around you.